Guys, just like last week's video, this week is going to be laid back talking about some movement in the market. A lot of the movement in the market has been over the companies that we have reviewed on this channel already. And going into those videos and going into those stocks and those companies, we knew those investments were very speculative to begin with. However, the movement that has been happening is something you just can't ignore and chalk up as a, hey, this was speculative to begin with. No, this is something that you need to be paying attention to. So without further ado, in today's video, we're going to be talking through some of the situations on these companies and seeing what could happen for the upcoming week. Welcome back, everybody, or if you're new here, my name is Sean Lucas, and over the past year or so, I've been coming up with, companies or stocks to review and research and decide whether or not that company or stock is a buy in my eyes based on the value at that given time. However, guys, in this one, we have a handful of companies that we have previously reviewed on the channel here, and they just so happen to be the forefront of this bear run that's going on in the stock market right now. So without jibber-jabbing around too long, let's actually get into the point of this video. So let's get into it. So before we say anything, before we look into these companies, before we talk about technical analysis and volume shelves and all that other good stuff, right? I'd like to make it clear that I am and I consider myself a long-term investor that uses tools such as technical analysis methods and volume shelves and all that good stuff to help decide and justify whether or not I'm getting a good deal at whatever price that I'm looking at on the chart, right? And I preach this a lot because not a lot of new people or not even new people, a lot of people, they love to consider stocks and other currencies and other types of investments after they made their big move, right? Whereas I and many other, not smarter, I mean, you know what I mean. A lot of other people like me would stray away from things after they made their big move because there's not enough meat on the bone for me to consider it a good deal, right? It could be a great investment down the line, but I don't think it is a good deal at that time. I'm talking about hypotheticals right now, right? Example, last April I made a video over Bitcoin, and the only people that were looking at Bitcoin during April was, diehard Bitcoin fans or other digital investors looking to put their monies elsewhere for, great gains. And the fact of the matter is that regular people weren't looking at Bitcoin during that time. They may have started spiking interest because during April, I believe the halving was a big topic. However, it just wasn't big, public news at that time. So fast forward to now, Bitcoin's at, almost 50K per Bitcoin, and regular people have now decided and accepted that Bitcoin might possibly be a good investment. But the problem is that they're investing at 50K, where I invested it at 7K, right? So there's a difference. So what I'm saying is that I really like to try to ride these things out, but I like to get the most out of it while I'm doing it. And that's why I use the tools that I do. So with that being said, guys, let's take a look at the list of stocks that I just quickly put together for today's video. And we might not even hit all of them, but it starts off with Virgin Galactic, Neo, Penn National, Spotify, Lemonade, Teladoc, Tesla, Hyliion, and Rocket Mortgage, all of which have had their own video on this channel or even part of a video on this channel, except one, and that happens to be Lemonade. So starting with Neo, because I've made a bunch of videos over this company in the past, including last week, but they have broke the support that I was so worried about just a week ago. And you can tell because look at this line, right? I was so worried that this stock was going to drop lower than this support that I had drawn up. And that support that it was drawn up was basically the lowest portion of that volume shelf that I saw was like a strong support for it. So as you can see, whatever day that was, the third Wednesday, right? So on Wednesday it touched that actual support and managed to stay above it, and then Thursday it just shot down. Friday it shot down even worse. But on Friday it reached the low of at almost 32-ish dollars per share, but managed its way to get back up to 38 and 11. However, in the grand scheme of things, right, if you look at it, there's been more selling days than buying days, and it's almost down. It was down at one point, holy cow, 49%, and it looks to be, down 39 and some change percent. And something that I like to talk about in all these videos is the volume shelves. That's part of the reason that I come up with, is it a good price? Am I getting a good deal? This, that, and the other thing, right? So the reason being, I look at the volume shelf. It's currently in between this volume shelf right here and this, little volume ledge. We went over that in a couple videos ago, but it is in between them nonetheless, right? So, and the reason why that's such a big issue is that anytime the stock tries to raise again, anytime the stock tries to go higher, people are like, hey, maybe we should start buying again. It's a good deal. Starts to go higher, and think about it, right? All these people that were invested in here, they're down, what was it? 50, almost 50%, 40%. So they're down bad, right? These guys are down bad. Hold on, we'll even circle them up because that's just how bad they are. These guys are down bad, right? So anytime the stock ends up moving higher in the slightest, these guys right here, they're going to start selling their position because they are now losing a little less money on their total position. But now the stock price is lower than the actual volume shelf itself. And anytime the stock moves higher, it gives the people who have bought in up here, the guys who are down bad, a chance to sell their shares at a little lower of a loss. So it only pushes the stock further to the downside. It's kind of a sticky situation they're in. But moving on to Virgin Galactic, and man, I have not talked about this company in a while, mostly because I know this company is bringing some innovative technology / experiences to the market. So of course it's going to be very volatile. Well, I mean, because of how speculative the company and stock really is, if you break it down to the barest of investments, right? But just like Neo, we can see a couple similarities, right? It was trending up in the first place. Then it had a notable increase in stock price where it sat at for a little bit and actually started forming a little bit of a volume nub, a volume ledge. This is nowhere close to a volume shelf. This is a volume shelf right down here, right? This is a volume nub. This is a volume ledge. These are names that I'm coming up with on the spot. So there you go. However, it sat here for a little bit, started forming that nub, and then with all this bearish movement that has been happening for the past week or so, right? It has just sent the stock down and down, gapping and further and further and closer to the the 1 year, 1 day price control of this chart, right? So we can even see it on Spotify. So let me pull it up real quick. The stock sold off for the last half of the week, right? So the last 3 days, and look where it stands, right? The price control of the 1 year, 1 day chart, literally touching it and bouncing back up for a little bit, but I don't see that lasting too long. This bearish run seems a little too powerful, so I it's gonna hang around here for a little bit. But let's keep moving on. Where else do we see this at? Where? Tesla. But as we can see from Tesla is one of the companies that is getting hit with this bear run as well. Looking at this line that I put together here, and it looks like the stock's price had fell below this price line, the support that I put on here because of this volume ledge. It fell down as low as $540 dollars per share, and then bounced its way back up to the $497.95 range. As we can see, that line that I added correlates with that volume shelf, volume ledge that I've been talking about, and it also is where the price was hanging out for a bit before it even moved up to the $900 price range. So it formed here. There's got to be some type of support going on here because all these people that bought here and then it expanded up, was hanging out at the $900 range for a little bit, and then with all this bearish activity going on and some suspicious candles. So yeah, I mean, those candles are weird anyways. However, it is sitting at this charging station for Tesla, no pun intended. Moving on, looking at this Teladoc chart, this is another stock that I am bullish on, just on the sheer fact of the idea around the company, and I think that Teladoc is leading the path for this space. But let's look at their movement. After reaching an all-time high of 308 after some consolidation and some expansion, we can see that because of this bearish movement that's going on, it has brought the stock back down to the price control, actually a little bit lower than the price control of the 1 year, 1 day at 189.69. In this list that we covered today is just a few of stocks that have fallen altogether, right? But this leads us to our next topic of discussion, because I think you guys get or understand, supply and demand in volume shelves and where we're sitting at, and the price control of the 1 year 1 day chart, and seeing how all these stocks are free falling into the price control, right? Just recently, Jikh had come out with a video talking about the end of the current debt cycle, which is something that Ray Dalio has brought up in the past, for the past few years, and it breaks down into 3 different stages, technically. Number 1, productivity, and the first and most powerful is productivity, which comes from people learning and inventing and doing things well, end quote. Then you got number 2, the short-term debt cycle. The short-term debt cycles is, recession and expansions and booms and recessions. This lasts about 8 to 10 years. And then lastly, you got the long-term debt cycle, which goes on at about once every 50 to 75 years, and is when you begin a new type of money, a new type of credit. That began in 1945 at the New World Order, at the end of World War II, with the Bretton Woods monetary system. They created a new monetary system in 1945, a new money, right? And if we add 75 to 1945, it actually comes out to 2020, and it's actually 2021. So based off those predictions right there, the end of the debt cycle should be right about now. And it calls for a bigger recession than the one in the 1930s. So, it could be pretty scary if it hits the way that Ray Dalio is thinking. However, the thing is that I've seen Ray Dalio talk about this, talking about the long-term debt cycle ending in articles all the way dating back to 2016. So, so at what point do we give credit to somebody that has been calling for something for the better part of 5 years, right? We don't, You know the old saying, even a broken clock is right twice a day. Now that's not me saying that, we're never going to see some economic downfall. We're never going to see a recession again, because we are, eventually we are going to see these things. However, I don't think we should reward somebody for saying something over and over and over until they get it right. It's just a lower success rate. But just like Andre, I do not let these things freak me out from investing. I don't let these things freak me out from going into the market at all. I will use this time and opportunity to look for good deals throughout the market by using the tools I love to use. You got the volume shelves, the price controls, the news pieces, and the earnings. You got all these tools, might as well use them, right? So without boring you guys anymore, that is going to be it for me on this one. I do plan on making update videos throughout the week, seeing where these stocks will end up. I do think that since a lot of them have made their big moves back to the price control in the largest volume shelves of the 1 year 1 day chart, we should start seeing things slowing down from selling off. If it doesn't, then we got some bigger things to be worried about. But that is something that we will be looking at through the updates throughout the week, and that is all on a hope basis. So hopefully this does happen. So until that actually happens, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.